Stay tuned for this episode. We're going to be talking about when you require a private certification or a DA approval to open your business in a commercial property. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Josh Wapshot, episode 1698, DA versus private certification. This must be one of the topics that comes up with nearly every lease deal from a prospective tenant. Can they just pick the property, sign the lease, and move in straight away and open their business? We wish it was that simple. Josh, how often will this question come up? And talk us through the difference. What is the private certification and the DA application?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, this is something that's probably discussed on a daily basis, whether it's a tenant just looking or someone looking to close out a lease and start preparing their fit out. And there's a couple of hoops they need to jump through, Michael, to get to that stage. And sometimes you can make things a little technical, but keeps it always interesting. Obviously, you've got existing uses, office to office. People may think that, in that circumstance to move in, if you're looking to change the fit out, but you're keeping the use, the environment the same, that's a scenario where you might use a private certifier. But if you're looking to change the business use, then you're looking at a DA with council, which can take some time, and there's a few boxes to tick along the way.
Yeah, and I think the 30,000 view is your private certification is desired because that can be done in a couple of weeks, where the DA approval most likely is 3 to 6 months. Council, I believe, reserve the right, once you lodge the application, I think it's 42 days they have to get back to you by. But as we know in lease deals, 6 weeks may not sound like a long time, but an owner rarely agrees to that 6 weeks without the tenant paying. A tenant doesn't want to pay for the 6 weeks, and that does not factor in just to get the application ready. It's not like a one-page form. There can be a lot of information attached to it. And as you highlighted, you've got two different parts. There's the usage and then there's the construction part of it as well. And we can talk on both, but we're highlighting just the usage. And you said it perfectly, Josh, where it's like if you're looking to lease a property that had a barbershop and you're looking to do another barbershop or a hair salon, most likely you can just go in under private certification. The misconception out there is it nothing, private certification or DA? Technically, nothing is never allowed. Whether you go into a property with a similar use or a different, it always needs a change of use. If you're ever changing the fit out, then you need to do a construction certificate as well. So as much as a lot of properties and a lot of tenants do the nothing approach, and I suppose I sort of like that, council. There's so many parts of our life that are hammered, and small businesses, it's hard enough as is than to see like every small business hammered if they haven't ticked every box. Don't you reckon, Josh? Like if you,
100%.
I almost don't mind that bit of leniency.
100%. And like another thing you got to factor in as well, Mike, is that generally at this stage, there's a lot of cash that's coming out of the pocket of your incoming tenant. You generally, like you said, if we've secured the deal, you've paid 2 months rent up front. You then got to have 3 months bond put aside. You've then got the actual fit out contribution and the certifiers to go along with it. So not only is it a long process, but it's cash intensive. It's a
With
lot.
nothing coming in.
Exactly right. And they wonder why, small business struggles. This is probably one of the biggest hurdles I've ever seen. And some of the lodgements that you see go through council, and the hoops they need to jump through for something that might seem simple, you really start to recognize the stress new businesses go through when it comes to starting a new premises.
And a little bit off topic, but I think this is a good example, and then we'll get a little bit more detailed for anyone watching, is the strata tick off for a DA. So when you lodge any of it, private certify or DA, the strata need to tick off. Now, I believe that was supposed to be almost rubber stamped. You go to the strata building saying, I want to open a barber shop or a restaurant. You go, yep, that usage is fine. It's to identify and be like, I'm not opening a brothel. That's what I believe the intention was. What it's turned into is basically a DA process and vetting, but instead of it being with trained planners from council, it's with the 80 residents plus the strata managers team vetting the applicant. And I had a deal, it was one in DY, it took nearly a year, 9 months to get the strata approval, because strata were going, we want to see the traffic report. We want to see how big that cool room is, where it's going, what's the power. All these things we're going to outline what's involved in a DA. This strata were wanting to see prior. And it's on one hand, it's like, how can you say they're wrong? Because you understand it's their building, they care. But that's the purpose of the DA, and that will all get checked. And then it comes back to get approval. So that just added another element to it, which was a bit of a nightmare. But just a rule of thumbs from tenants. So same approved use, often can move in with little or no planning approval. Different use, but it complies with planning controls. It may be eligible for private certification, such as CDC where applicable. Different use, and this is the key thing, greater impacts. You generally need a DA application. So an example would be, you've got the barber shop, and under that approval, let's say they estimated 5 customers coming in per day and 2 staff parking and 1 customer parking. And then you want to change it to something that's going to bring in 20 people a day and maybe add food, triggers a DA. So even if the businesses are similar, but the key wording there is the impact to the surrounding. So that's why an easy example we say is like office to food, because everyone knows then you have food impact, smell impact. And typically someone who's running a barbershop, maybe 10 clients a day, compared to food that might get 100, that's a greater impact. So, and another thing that where people sort of get mixed up is you only go down this process if it's a permitted use. So there's a great website, ePlanner, that we can share in the chat, which you can type in any address. It gives you the zoning and it gives you the permitted use and the generalization of businesses there. But also what people look for, they look for their business to say, yes, I'm allowed. You're not going to see that. They're not going to label a million businesses. They more implicate what's not allowed. And then you can really see, you get a better understanding of what's not allowed, because they say retailer. Did it technically say barbershop? No. But you fall under that big umbrella. So I don't want to say it's gray area because it sounds like it's unofficial, but there is a lot of that gray area where people just can't see it black and white. This is what I do, which you've just got to draw that conclusions from there.
And then, I guess, always before we move on to the next as well, also important to note, especially if you're representing a landlord. I know I went through with one in DY where there was a gym that hadn't had the correct approvals in place. Unfortunately, that gym moved on and didn't continue business. And then we've gone to lease the business out as an existing gym. And once we had the tenant ready to go, they found out that no approvals were put in place for that use. So even if it was an existing tenant with an existing business, same business coming in, because those approvals weren't done properly with council prior, they go automatically straight to applying for a DA through council and starting from the beginning. So always be careful there as well. You will probably want to check as a tenant that the approved use is there, or there is some sort of CDC or DA listed on council for that premises, because then you can get into some sticky situations. Isn't that right, Mike?
Well, that's a great distinction. We often you hear us agents say, or owners or people, existing use. But there's a big difference between existing use, what was physically there yesterday, and what's existing use on paper at council. It could have been, so that property in council's, like, let's say I was an accountant before. If you go to council, what's in there, what's existing use? They go, it's an accountant from '06. And you're like, no, the gym's been there 10 years. That's not approved. That shouldn't be there. So that's a big distinction. And I also know it's very difficult to actually sometimes get that data. Exactly what you said before about all the costs associated with the tenant. And it's just as big on the owner side as well. Yes, there are a lot of owners who have very little debt on their commercial property, but there's just as many who do. So if you can imagine your mortgage, and this is where a lot of owners struggle to, 99% of owners will not agree to a deal subject to DA. And the big reason is, you're almost guaranteeing no income for 6 months. And think of your mortgage. Could you hold that for 6 months with no income? Not many people can. And that's where you get these two sides where neither party is trying to screw either party over. Like you just labeled all the expenses a tenant has to deal with no income. And then on the other side, you've got an owner with the same mortgage going out with no income.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'd rather than committing to 6 months guaranteed no income, and then the tenant wants the rent-free period after that of, say, 3 months. So it could almost be 9 months, no income for that landlord. And it's not like the tenant's winning on this. Everyone's losing.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I think just to highlight, just so people may think, a DA or a council, these are the considerations where we highlighted the greater impact. It's parking, traffic, noise, trading hours, waste, ventilation, environmental impacts, impact to the neighbours. So if you look at the existing approved use of that property, and if you're basically increasing any one of those items, that's a DA.
Yeah. And it's crazy how it's good information, that, because it's, how many times do you ask that question, and no matter if they're asking a professional, even in the trade, you still have those same tenants coming back and asking those sorts of questions. So yeah, it's very interesting, but I really feel like there needs to be some more efficiency behind these processes. These are the guys out there taking a risk, going and having a go, both landlord and tenant, and it's definitely not an efficient process going through. Because you're pretty much on the journey along with the tenant until they're in there. Even when they're in there, I love seeing the process of a little piece of paper to all of a sudden there's a brand new gym down at Brookvale. It's awesome to see, but it's sad to see.
Wait till you see them get in the next location, because business has been good. I've got this one story of this gentleman immigrated to Australia from Germany. Like, he was virtually sleeping in the warehouse when he came here, say 20 years ago. And he's expanded from one warehouse. I sold it for him. Then the next one, he went to 3 bigger ones. Then I just saw him the other day, and he's just done his house, started subdivided. And I was like, mate, do you remember, like, first time we met, you were telling me when you came here, you were living like overnight stay in your factory? To see what you have grown is fucking inspirational. Like, that's what you want from people. Yeah. And I love it as well. I don't know if we want to, I suppose we should touch on, we're just giving out such good information. Let's keep it going. I think the other part to it, you sort of don't want to highlight it, but I've seen what some tenants have done is, now it's almost whenever you do something bad, you sort of look at the punishment to know if you do that. Like, if you going over 1 kilometer over the speed limit with jail 10 years, no one would go 1 kilometer. But if it was 1 kilometer over and there was no punishment, you go 1 kilometer over, a lot of people. Now, it's what I've noticed with this DA existing use and moving into a premises, because there were there was a period, especially where small business was booming with gyms in Brookvale. I was speaking of one a day, one a week, and it almost got to the stage like taking all these great offers to landlords, but they were all subject to. And it got to the stage where I'm just saying to these tenants, if you're looking for it subject to, no deal. And it just ended the conversation. But what I saw one business do is they just went and took the property, moved in straight away, did their fit out. And it wasn't maybe 1 or 2 years later, a knock on the door from council and saying, like, you haven't lodged your application. Now, a lot of people envision that means your doors are shut, locks are changed, business is shut down. And I'm sure that may apply. That could be an option out there. I don't want to say this is what people do and this is what council exactly do. This is what I observed. They got the knock on the door and they said, you've got, I don't want to say 90 days or maybe it was 30 days to lodge your application. So then they lodged their application. There was a bit of back and forth. I looked at the council website not too long ago. It took nearly a year, but they were operating that whole time. So it's like, and I think as a first business moving in, you can't really do that. Your fit out may cost you 50 grand, 100 grand. So it's very very tough to just take a lease for 3 years or 5 years where you're liable and then not have that usage approved. But that's what I saw this business do, and they were able to get that approval there. So if you're a business out there and you haven't been able to secure a premises and it's been years, months, it may be worth looking down that path. Not that I endorse that. It's what I heard out there, and it's a very tough situation for both parties. Josh has left us. I think just a bit of technical issues. So we'll end it. I don't know. Can you log back in? Beautiful. I was about to say I can't turn it off. So I'm not sure if you could hear. I told that story.
I could hear you.
I don't know if I should have. Definitely don't condone it. But I also just, with what we were saying about how tough it is for tenants and businesses,
yeah,
it is a gamble to go in without that approval. But like, I've only seen it once, but I've seen a lot of time people just moving in because they've gone, I was a barbershop before with similar usages. It'll be okay. I think another topic we could talk about is the fit out side of things. And when do you need to do a CDC or a DA for the fit out? Today mainly was the usage in principle. Anything else you want to add on to that, Josh?
No, I think we hit everything in regards to that, but it's definitely, an intensive process, and it'd be good to see something like this get a little bit more streamlined for our incoming tenants and people taking a risk and getting into business. So, I don't know, hopefully
this is actually what I was going to say when I got off topic with the thing I probably shouldn't have said. You were 100% spot on. So a bit of the history was council used to do all of this process, same with developments of unit blocks. And then they streamlined it by bringing in the private certification. So can you imagine just going a change of use, taking 6 months through council from barbershop to barbershop? So it's you're 100% right. So like there were those efforts maybe 10, 15 years ago, but there definitely needs to be more. And then also that strata approval needs to be, because I don't think that's fair. Either strata's got to be the last step. I don't know. I can't fault a strata committee asking those questions and owners, but when it takes, maybe there needs to be strata have to respond with 30 days.
Deadlines.
If they don't, it's automatically approved.
Yeah.
Because being caught up 9 months in strata before you do your DA was insane.
It's business killer.
Yeah. Anyway,
all right.
All good.
Beauty. Awesome, guys. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the chat this morning.
Anytime. Cheers.
Have a good day, everyone.